Now let's start with the different types of ulcers. So the first type of ulcer, you have arterial ulcer. Okay, so now when visualizing arterial ulcer, you need to visualize the different elements of arterial ulcer. The first thing you have to start with is that before you have an arterial ulcer, you must have an arteropathy. Is it clear? Before you have an arterial ulcer, you must have an arteropathy. Now you need to know that what there is a mechanism of arterial ulcer, and that mechanism of arterial ulcer that I've just explained is the arteropathy. And now you need to know that what the arterial obstruction from the arteropathy can either be central or it is peripheral. Is it clear? So if you have an arterial obstruction somewhere, it can either be central or it is peripheral. Are you getting me clearly? So they say okay, the arterial obstruction can either be central or peripheral. So that is what we're going to speak on, the pathogenesis of the arterial obstruction, arterial obliteration. Pathogenesis of arterial obstruction. The pathogenesis can be central or it can be peripheral. Now, in cases of peripheral is just the same as local arterial obstruction. In case of is anything that's associated with atherosclerosis, is it clear? Anything that's associated with atherosclerosis is going to result to peripheral arterial obstruction. Is it clear? And now we need to know that what still under the pathogenesis of arterial obstruction, we have what is called acute limb ischemia. We have what is called acute limb ischemia, and we have what is called chronic limb ischemia. Is it clear? So those are two different major things in the arterial obstruction. Also, when you are speaking about arterial obstruction, you must distinguish between acute limb ischemia and you have also chronic limb ischemia, still under the mechanism of the arterial obstruction. Is it clear? Now, under acute limb ischemia is anything which is central or peripheral, which can result to an acute obstruction of a blood vessel, of an artery. Is it clear? While in chronic limb ischemia is anything that can be central or peripheral, which results to chronic obstruction of the blood vessels. Is it clear? So those are two different ways of visualizing it. In acute limb ischemia, generally, centrally, you are going to have cardioembolic events. Is it clear? So in acute limb ischemia, the causes of acute limb ischemia can be cardioembolic, meaning that what there is a thrombus which is located inside the heart, and then that thrombus migrate from the heart into the blood vessel in the limb, resulting to an arterial obliteration that results to an ulcer, an arterial ulcer. Is it clear? And now there are pathologies which can promote now the cardiac embolization, like atrial fibrillation, like heart failure, like myocardial infarctions. So those are certain pathology with reduction of contractility. Any pathology that reduces the contractility of the heart for a long period of time can be associated with the formation of thrombus in the heart. Is it clear? And those thrombus now, we have also valvular insufficiencies. Is it clear? Those thrombus now are the one that can migrate from the heart into the blood vessels, resulting to arterial obliterations. Is it clear? So from here we can visualize now the pathogenesis of acute limb ischemia. Now for the peripheral causes of acute limb ischemia, we need to know that what it is generally an acute on chronic event of an ischemia. So what do I mean by that? Or you can just have an acute event, like a case of a vasculitis. Is it clear? Vasculitis can result to acute limb ischemia. We have vasculitis like polyarterial nodosa. Is it clear? We have polyarterial artery nodosa. We have Takayasu arteritis, or all those other vasculitis, like the case of giant cell temporitis, or the temporal cell vasculitis. So those are the different things that you have as vasculitis that you may note, which can result to acute limb ischemia. The next thing that can result to acute limb ischemia again, we are going to have rupture of a thrombus that was located at the level of an atherosclerotic plate of a distal, rupture of a distal thrombus, is it clear, in an aneurysm, is it clear? You can have rupture of a thrombus from an aneurysm, is it clear? You can also have an aneurysm which result to a distal, so the aneurysm with rupture thrombus that result to distal acute limb ischemia. So all these are risk factors, the pathogenesis of acute limb ischemia in a patient with an arterial obstruction. Now, the pathogenesis of chronic limb ischemia is much more peripheral than central, and those peripheral is mostly based on atherosclerosis. Is it clear? So atherosclerosis can be a cause of a chronic limb ischemia. We have also aneurysms. Is it clear? Because aneurysm have there's dilation of the vessels which result to a reduced pressure inside the vessels. That can also result to a chronic limb ischemia. Is it clear? So those are the elements that you need to note as the risk factors under the arterial ulcers and arterial obliterations. Is it clear? Now we are going to now understand now the mechanism of acute limb ischemia and the mechanism of chronic limb ischemia.